Hello and welcome to Lantern Lane Stories. Tonight's story is Sister Andrea's Deep Brown Sauce. In the year 1685, the city of Puebla lay quiet and drowsy under the Mexican sun. The air was warm and smelled of earth and stone and smoke from cooking fires far away. Inside the thick walls of the convent of Santa Rosa, the kitchen was cool and dark. Sister Andrea de la Asunción scrubbed the kitchen table with a cloth that had been damp since dawn. The stone was cool under her hands. Her fingers were stained brown from handling dried chilies. The smell of chilies hung in the air, earthy, deep, like summer turned to smoke. Sister Andrea was calm that morning. She knew exactly what meals to make. Bean soup with onions, cornbread, roasted chicken with salt. These were meals she had made 1,000 times. Her hands knew the work without her thinking. But then, a knock on the heavy wooden door. Sister Andrea stopped moving. The Archbishop is coming. A younger nun whispered breathless as she entered the kitchen. Her eyes were wide when asked Sister Andrea, though her heart was already beating faster. Tomorrow evening, the Mother Superior says he is visiting from Mexico City. Sister Andrea set down her cloth very slowly. The Archbishop was the highest visitor a convent could receive. Only the king was more important. She had been at Santa Rosa for 20 years. She had never cooked for an archbishop. "What should we make?" asked Sister Beatrice, who had just come in with fresh eggs. The question hung in the air like the smell of chilies. Sister Andrea looked around the kitchen. She could see every ingredient she owned. Dried chilies hung from the ceiling in long braids, red ones, dark brown ones, almost black ones. A jar of precious chocolate sat on the highest shelf, dark as midnight, almonds in a clay pot. Sesame seeds in another, cinnamon sticks bundled with twine, small cloves smaller than a fingernail, bread that was a day-old, onions, garlic, tomatoes, raisins, and seeds of pumpkin and squash. "I don't know," Sister Andrea said, her voice very quiet, but her mind was already racing like water, rushing downhill. What if the meal was not good? What if the Archbishop returned to Mexico City and told everyone the convent's food was simple or plain? What if he was disappointed? The younger nuns were looking at her, waiting. Sister Andrea was the best cook in the convent. Everyone knew this, but even the best cook could not make something from nothing. And she had never cooked for someone so important. That night, Sister Andrea could not sleep. She lay on her narrow cot in the darkness and thought about kitchens. She thought about every sauce she had ever made in her life. She thought about the Archbishop's reputation, a man who had eaten in grand houses in Mexico City, a man who had tasted the finest foods. What could she make that would not seem too simple to him? At dawn, before any other nun was awake, Sister Andrea rose and went to the kitchen. The morning light was golden and soft, coming through the high, narrow windows. The kitchen was hers alone. She began to work, and her hands knew what to do, even though her mind was uncertain. First, she took down the braids of dried chilies. She selected the pasilla chilies, long and dark purple, almost black. Their skin was wrinkled like ancient paper. She held one to her nose and inhaled. The smell was fruity and deep, with a hint of plum. She found the mulatto chilies similar but different, more chocolatey, more smoky. And the ancho chilies, wider and reddish brown with a warm, gentle heat. She placed them all in a heavy iron pan. The pan she had used since she was a young woman over the fire. The chilies began to warm. As they heated, their skins released smoke, a thin, fragrant smoke that rose and made her cough a little. The smell changed from green and fresh to something roasted and ancient. She could smell each one separately: the fruity pasilla, the chocolatey mulatto, the warm ancho. When the pan was hot enough, she removed it from the fire. She let the chilies cool. Then, carefully, she removed the seeds and the stems, letting the pile of cleaned chili flesh grow in her bowl. Next came the almonds. She placed them on a separate pan and toasted them until they turned golden brown. The smell was sweet and warm. Then sesame seeds, a generous handful, pale gold and small as grains of sand. She toasted them until they smelled like summer and earth. Cinnamon sticks. She broke one and smelled the sweet spice that made her think of markets in faraway places. Cloves. Just 4, small as tiny stones, and they smelled like all the spices of the world pressed into one tiny seed. A pinch of anise, which smelled like licorice and morning. The kitchen began to fill with scents that were not quite the same as each other. Sweet and smoky and earthy all at once. All of them together made something new, something she had never smelled before. "What are you making?" asked Sister Magdalena, passing through the kitchen on her way to the garden. The sun was higher now, and other nuns were waking. "I'm not sure yet," Sister Andrea said, honestly. She had her stone metate, the ancient grinding tool her grandmother had given her years ago, and a mano, the stone roller, for crushing. She placed the cooled chilies on the metate. Then she began to grind. The mano was heavy and warm in her hands. She pressed it forward, then pulled it back toward her, pressed and pulled, pressed and pulled. The sound was patient and steady, like the rhythm of prayer, like the rhythm of the ocean, like the rhythm of a heart beating. As the chilies broke down, the seeds and the flesh and the skin all mixed together into a paste. The color deepened from dark red to deep brown to almost black. She worked for a long time. Her arms grew tired, but she did not stop. Then she added the almonds and ground them too. The paste grew lighter and softer, more complex with each turn of the stone. She added cinnamon and cloves, grinding them in with the chilies and almonds. The aroma rose in thick waves, filling the whole convent kitchen, perhaps filling the whole convent. She added a pinch of anise and ground again. "Sister Andrea, are you well?" asked another nun, pausing at the kitchen doorway with concern. Sister Andrea did not look up from her work. "I think so," she said. "I think I'm making something." Time passed. The sun moved across the sky. She added breadcrumbs to thicken the paste. She added a small piece of the precious dark chocolate, just enough so you could taste it dancing on your tongue. But it did not overwhelm everything else. She added raisins, which added a touch of sweetness and fruit. She added a tomato, pulped fine, a pinch of salt, seeds of pumpkin, and squash went into the stone bowl. These were mild and nutty and added a subtle depth. She was reaching for anything now, any spice, any ingredient, anything that might work. It was as though her hands knew something her mind did not know. The paste in the metate grew and grew. She added warm broth from yesterday's soup, a little at a time, so the sauce became less thick, less dry. She stirred it with a wooden spoon that had been worn smooth by decades of use. The color deepened, darkened, became almost black-brown, the color of deep earth, of tree bark, of a secret that had been buried for centuries and was only now being revealed. When she finally stopped grinding, her arms were tired and her back ached, but her heart felt quiet and certain. "What is it?" asked Sister Beatrice, coming in with her arms full of fresh corn for the evening meal. Sister Andrea looked at the wooden spoon in her hand. The sauce clung to it, thick and heavy and dark, and it steamed slightly in the morning light. "I think," Sister Andrea said slowly, and for the first time that day she smiled, "it is a prayer." The kitchen smelled of smoke and spices all through the afternoon of the Archbishop's arrival. Sister Andrea kept the sauce warm over a low fire, stirring it gently with a wooden spoon. She had roasted a turkey, a large one, its skin golden and crackling slightly at the edges. She had prepared it with care, and now it rested on a large platter, waiting. As the evening came, the bells of Puebla began to ring across the city. The sound was deep and slow and traveled through the stone walls of the convent. The Archbishop had arrived. Sister Andrea heard the voices of the other nuns, excited and nervous, greeting the important visitor. She heard the Mother Superior's voice, respectful and warm. The kitchen suddenly felt both too small and too large. Sister Andrea's hands trembled slightly as she began to pour the dark sauce over the roasted turkey. She poured it carefully, watching as the thick, glossy sauce covered the golden burr. The sauce steamed, and the kitchen filled with that smell, something no one had ever created before, something new in the world. It was smoky and spiced and sweet all at once. It smelled like secrets and work and love and prayer all mixed together. "Bring it," said the Mother Superior, standing in the doorway with her hands folded. Sister Andrea lifted the platter. It was heavy in her arms. She carried it slowly through the stone corridors of the convent to the dining hall. The room fell silent when she entered. The Archbishop sat at the head of the long wooden table, his robes a deep purple that seemed to drink in the candlelight. His eyes were sharp and intelligent and kind. Next to him sat the Mother Superior. Around the table sat all the nuns of Santa Rosa, seated by age and rank, watching and waiting. "What is this?" the Archbishop asked, leaning forward slightly. His voice was curious and warm. "A sauce, Your Grace," the Mother Superior said quietly. "Made from the ingredients God provided to our convent kitchen?" The Archbishop nodded slowly. Sister Andrea set the platter before him and stepped back into the shadows by the doorway. Her breath held so tight it hurt. The Archbishop took his knife and cut a piece of the turkey. The sauce clung to the white meat, dark and mysterious and rich-looking. He lifted the bite slowly to his mouth. He closed his eyes as he chewed. Sister Andrea watched his face. A long moment passed. Then the Archbishop's eyes opened, and they were wide with surprise. He swallowed. "Extraordinary," he whispered, almost to himself. He cut again, and ate again and again. He was not being polite anymore. He was truly tasting, truly thinking about every flavor. Finally, he set down his fork and knife. "This sauce," he said, looking around the table at all the nuns, "is extraordinary. I cannot name all the flavors I taste in it." "Your Grace," asked the Mother Superior. "There is chocolate, yes, but also is that cinnamon and cloves, but also chilies. Many different chilies, each one different." He looked back at the platter, studying it carefully. "And other things, fruits, nuts, spices I cannot identify." He took another spoonful. "This sauce, it is not like anything I have ever tasted. It is as if every flavor in Puebla has come together into one dish. It is complex, it is beautiful, it is Mexican, and it is Spanish, and it is something entirely its own." He looked up, searching the room. "Who made this?" Sister Andrea stepped forward from the shadows. Her legs felt weak, but she walked forward with her back straight. "I did, Your Grace." The Archbishop studied her face. "You have created something magnificent," he said. "This sauce, teach it to others. It is too good to be kept in one convent. It should be shared with Puebla." "Yes, Your Grace," Sister Andrea whispered. "What do you call it?" the Archbishop asked. Sister Andrea opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no name for what she had made. It had happened too quickly, grown too suddenly, come from panic and prayer, and her own two hands, and no planning at all. "Mole," said an old nun from the back of the room softly. Her name was Sister Luz, and she had been born in Puebla before the Spanish came. That is what our ancestors called such sauces, long before any of us were born. "Mole," the Archbishop repeated, nodding slowly. "Yes, this is mole. This is now the sauce of Puebla. This is a gift to Mexico." The room filled with a quiet joy like the feeling just before sunrise when the world is holding its breath. The next morning, the recipe for mole spread through Puebla like light spreading across water. Women came to the convent asking Sister Andrea to teach them. She showed them how to toast the chilies, how to grind them with the ancient metate, how to be patient with the work. She showed them that mole was not something you could rush. It was something that required time and care and attention. Other convents wanted to learn the recipe. Families throughout Puebla asked for it. Each cook who learned to make mole added their own small changes. A few more almonds here, an extra clove there, a different balance of spices. But they all remembered that the sauce came from Sister Andrea's hands in her prayer. Years passed, decades passed, the recipe grew more complex. cooks discovered new ingredients they could add. More varieties of chilies, more spices arriving on ships from Spain and from faraway lands. Some versions of mole now had 50 ingredients. Some had 80. The finest versions had more than 100 ingredients. Some took 3 days to prepare. The work never ended, grinding, stirring, tasting, adjusting. Families served mole at their weddings when 2 people were joining their lives together. They served it at celebrations and festivals. On the Day of the Dead, when families remember ancestors who had passed away, they served mole, because this sauce was a connection between the living and those who had gone before. They served it over turkey, as Sister Andrea had done. They served it on special occasions, because mole was a meal that said to everyone sitting at the table, "You are important. I spent time on you. I made something beautiful because I love you." Years became centuries. Puebla grew from a small city into a larger one. But mole remained. It remained because Sister Andrea's invention did not come from any plan or book or instruction. It came from her hands, working, grinding, and grinding, mule y muele, until something new was born. In 1685, in a small convent kitchen in Puebla, one nun with trembling hands and a worried heart had mixed together the gifts she had. She had the chilies from the Americas, grown on soil that had been part of Mexico long before any convent stood there. She had the spices from Spain, cinnamon and cloves that had traveled across the ocean on tall ships. She had chocolate brought by those same ships, ground and precious. She had seeds and nuts and bread and fruit, all the gifts that the earth and human hands had made. She had not been trying to invent something that would last forever. She had only been trying to honor a guest, to do something beautiful, even though she was afraid. But her nervousness and her care and her creativity and her faith had created something that would last for hundreds of years. It is still here. Now, if you ever eat Mole Poblano, that deep brown sauce with flavors you cannot quite name, sweet and spicy and earthy all at once, complex and mysterious and warm, you are tasting something that came from one woman's prayer. You are tasting her work. You are tasting her determination to do something beautiful, even when she was afraid. Next time you see mole, remember Sister Andrea's hands grinding and grinding on the stone metate. Remember her sauce steaming over the roasted turkey? Remember the Archbishop's face when he tasted something the world had never known before? Remember that the greatest gifts sometimes come from a moment of panic and uncertainty, mixed with love and made with careful hands. Remember that one person alone in a kitchen can create something that will feed families for 400 years and counting. And as the night deepened in Puebla and families finished their meals, and mothers tucked children into bed, and the old people settled into their chairs by windows overlooking the city, the smell of mole lingered in kitchens across the city. It was the smell of history and care and love. It was the smell of Spanish spices meeting American chilies and creating something that belonged to neither Spain nor the Americas alone, but to Mexico, to Puebla, forever. The convent bells rang softly in the distance, and so Puebla also slowly fell asleep. Good night.